toward them with super speed. They are really surprised to see Sungyun's speed. Sungyun cuts two of them down instantly and third one uses ice shield. Sungyun gives really excited smile and jumps toward the ice shield. Sungyun punches the shide. The hunter boy and the girl with him are really surprised to see him. The ice shield breaks it into pieces. Bad hunter gets really scared and says, "Wait. I was wrong. Please just." Sungyun stabs him in neck. Sungyun absorbs their soul. His proficiency increased by 6.4%. The girl says, "I'm sorry. I should have helped. But the fight had ended earlier than I expected." Sungyun says, "It's okay. You can leave now, don't worry about it." She starts to walk away and says, "Thank you, then." The boy says, "Are you perhaps a ranker?" Sungyun says, "Well, I guess you can say that." He thinks, "I was always within the top 10 after all." The boy says, "I see. It's an honor to meet you. I'm alive thanks to you, thank you so much. I just helped him because I thought I might also be threatened." "It's nothing, you can go now." Sungyun starts to walk and says, "Well then." The boy stops him. "These bodies. Please give them to me." Sungyun says, "Why?" The boy says, "Since you saved me, if you give them to me as a repayment, I'll give you a skill." Sungyun is surprised to hear that. The boy uses gluttony skill to absorbs the body. The boy says, "That's satisfying." Sungyun sees that and thinks, "Is that also a skill?" The boy smiles and says, "Then I'll give you a skill as promised." System says, "Acception additional skill from Administrator Glutton. Wings of Steel is being added to the shop's category skill." Sungyun smiles and thinks, "I didn't expect to get another skill." The boy says, "It's a skill that creates wings on your back, allowing you to fly. You'll be able to use it right away if you buy it with SP." Sungyun says, "Thanks." He thinks, "I'll check it out as soon as I'm back at the lobby." Administrator White Crane Sword Master warns not to approach his challenger. Administrator Glutton is angry over the lack of business ethics. Administrator Iron-Blooded Monarch is complaining about the loiterers around the contractee. Administrator Dark Devil watches the three argue. Sungyun sees that and thinks, "They're so dramatic. Seeing how competitive they are over challengers. There must be something they want from them. Well, I guess I'll find out." The boy and Sungyun are walking toward the town. The boy says, "The public regions are divided into the arena, auction site and the gambling area. Also, there's something that would be helpful for you to know. The currently known other dimensional worlds that have invaded other classes are Ares, Muram and Kalyan. These are the only three that are invading the earthly dimension. Ares prioritizes chivalry. The challengers in Muram are similar, except they're a bit more aggressive." Sungyun thinks, "So the Black Knight is from Ares and the White Crane is from Muram." The boy says, "I heard Kalyan is a nation of elves, fairies and humanly beasts." Sungyun says, "You know a lot." The boy smiles and says, "I looked into it using my question vouchers." They reach the gate of the town. The boy says, "We're finally in the public area." The boy gives him a business card and says, "It's not that great, but here's my business card." Sungyun says, "You are the team manager of the challenger managing team in the Hunter Association." The boy says, "Call me whenever you're curious about something." They enter the public area. System says, "All status abnormalities will be returned to normal, and fights between challengers will not be possible." The boy gets excited and says, "I'm thinking of making my way to the auction." Sungyun says, "Okay. I have somewhere to be too." The boy says, "Where are you gonna go?" Sungyun smiles and says, "The arena." He reaches the arena. There are a lot of other hunters sitting on the chairs and watching fights on the T versus screens in front of them. One of the hunters shouts and says, "Why did they bastard have to lose?" He's down again. Other hunter starts laugh and says, "I got a skill." Sungyun sees all that and thinks, "This is an arena. It feels more like a sport betting area." Administrator Dark Devil says, "It reminds him of the good old days." Administrator Iron-Blooded Monarch turns her head away from the arena in disgust. Administrator White Crane Sword Master is excited by the arena's atmosphere. Sungyun sees empty chairs and thinks, "Am I supposed to sit there?" Sungyun sits on a chair like a king. System says, "Arena system is being activated. Choose between betting and fighting." Sungyun thinks, "Betting and fighting." Sungyun opens the help menu. It says, 1. The arena is divided into two systems, betting and fighting. 2. If you have chosen betting, you can bet on the other participants' fights. 2.1. You can either lose or earn points depending on the results of the challenger you have bet points on. Sungyun thinks, I guess those people back there were betting. System says. 3. If you have chosen fighting, then you can fight with other challengers over a reward. 3.1. Once the fight is confirmed, each other's real name and ranking will be revealed. 3.2. The fight will only be confirmed when you have bet on a reward such as a skill, item, or authority. 3.3. You will only be matched with whose rewards are equal in value. 3.4. Once the fight is confirmed, you will be able to fight in the Colosseum. The fight will be over if one is to surrender, and you will be returned to where you were before the fight. Sungyun thinks, I guess it will transport us automatically to the Colosseum once the fight is confirmed. Well, in summary, I guess the point of the arena is the rewards. Sungyun says, well then, let's look for a reward that catches my eye. Some hunter are really excited to see someone and says, isn't that the Witch of Hellfire, Catherine? That hot and famous American hunter. Wow, I've never seen her in real life before. She is a really hot red-haired girl. She says, no one's requesting a fight with me. Is it because I have too many wins? More people would have requested for a fight if the fight records weren't shown. He has 17 victories and 0 losses. Administrator Master of Fire snickers, saying that the other are lame. She says, yeah, I guess there are only cowards here. How boring. She is about to get up and says, I'll have to get out of here instead of wasting more time. System says, you have received a fight request. Han Sungyun. Affiliated server, Korea. Ranking 3rd. Reward, Skill Demon Slayer rank C-. 0 victories and 0 losses. She is surprised and says, Han Sungyun. He's picking me despite having never fought before. She smiles and says, how interesting. System says, the fight has been confirmed. You are being transported to the Colosseum. They are standing in front of each other. She says, I like you gallantry. But you should have been more careful while choosing. System says, Han Sungyun versus Catherine Bennett. The fight begins. She starts release large amount of aura from the start. She says, think of this as learning experience. She activates authority, birth of fire. A really big ball of fire appears on her hand. She throws the fireball toward Sungyun. Sungyun jumps and dodges the fireball. The fireball follow him. She smiles and says, it's over. Sungyun activates Authority Sword Chi Master and cuts the fireball into pieces. She is really surprised to see that. Sungyun says, a learning experience, huh? Sungyun smiles and says, I'll be the one to give you that. After that we see that there is a house in a bamboo forest. And a woman is sitting there drinking tea. She is watching Han Sungyun fighting with the Catherine. She says, I didn't expect you to already be so adept with sword chi. She smiles and says, it was an excellent idea to give him a nice authority. And from now on, I need to build up my relationship with this challenger faster than the other challengers. This challenger might be able to resolve the grudge that I was unable to resolve myself. There are 3 really big fireballs are coming toward Sungyun. Sungyun activates instant acceleration and jumps. The fireballs follow him. Sungyun starts to cut down the fireballs. Sungyun cape starts to burn. He thinks, the cape's effects are not enough since I don't have wind's grace. She creates a lot more fireballs and slowly walks toward the Sungyun. She says, how long do you think you can hold on for? Administrator Iron-Blooded Monarch watches the flames with interest. Administrator White Crane Sword Master has high hopes for you. Administrator Dark Devil laughs loudly at the flames. She throws the fireballs toward Sungyun. Sungyun cuts the fireballs. System says, 3 minutes has elapsed since activating the Authority Sword Chi Master. Mana consumption rate has been increased by 6%. 4 minutes has elapsed since activating the Authority Sword Chi Master. Mana consumption rate has been increased by 8%. Sungyun thinks, this is gonna get a bit tiring if the fight drags on any longer. System says, absorbing Challenger Beck Sunhack's spirit to permanently increase stats. Stamina has increased by 2. Agility has increased by 1. Strength has increased by 3. Magic power has increased by 3. Durability has increased by 2. Absorbing on of Challenger Beck Sunhack's skills. Obtained skill Lighting Sword Chi rank B. Skill Lightning Sword Chi Rank B. Proficiency 0%. Description: Lightning Sect's Holy Body Divine Skill. Basic F-Deck. When using Sword Chi, the blade will be imbued with lightning, cannot be used without Sword Chi. Additional effect: when activating skill, it will reinforce Sword Chi, allowing you to use deadly attack. Sungyun thinks, Lightning Sword Chi. A deadly attack, does that mean I can shoot Sword Chi? Catherine uses fire attack and says, you must think you have the time to be distracted. A lot of fire spears surround Sungyun. Fire spears come toward Sungyun. Sungyun dodges the attacks. Sungyun grabs the fire spears and throw them on the ground and activates Ashen Blood to heal his hands. Sungyun thinks, I don't know if it'll work the first time, but I'll give it a go for practice. Sungyun activates Sword Chi Master Authority and Skill Lightning Sword Chi. Sungyun throws some slash attacks toward Catherine. Slash attack cuts her fireballs and are about to hit her. She activates shield. She thinks a counter attack right away. Sungyun appears right behind her. She says, you're unbelievably strong. I lose. System says, Challenger Catherine has surrendered. You have won. Obtains skill, Tempest Sword Rank C+ as a reward. You will be transported back to the 10th floor common area. He appears back on his chair. He says, I went pretty easy thinking of it as practice for using Sword Chi, but she's pretty strong. May Cape got burnt thanks to her. He says, Catherine Bennett. I'll take note of her. A skill window appears saying, Skill Tempest Sword Rank C+. Proficiency none. Basic effect, activates when stabbing, attack speed will be increased threefold. Additional effect, when skill is activated, there is a 30% chance of the wind attribute being imbued onto the blade, largely increasing movement speed. Sungyun says, I thought it was a swordsmanship skill. But it's a stabbing one. I was scammed. He thinks finally won victory. This is just the beginning. System says, duel has been confirmed. Transporting to the Coliseum. Starting duel. 11th ranking in Japan's server. Japanese Hunter says, I was looking forward to this fight because you're ranked 3rd in Korea. But you look rather homeless. I assume your skills are about that level too. Sungyun smiles. Hunter says, why are you smiling? Sungyun says, I just thought it's funny that we had the same thought. He gets really angry and says, jumps toward Sungyun and says, you homeless bastard. Sungyun dodges the spear and thinks, this is what the 11th place in Japan is like. Sungyun thinks, I guess I've gotten insanely stronger. This feels easy to me. Sungyun cuts him down. And System says, Challenger Owawaki Yuji has taken to much damage. You have won. Sungyun laughs and gives an evil smile and says, a skill feast. Sungyun now starts to defeat the hunter one after another. System says, you have accomplished Master of Duels. Stamina has increased by 2. After that we see at China. A man is sitting on a rock focusing his mind. A man come to him. He opens his eyes and says, what? Did you just say that the great elder Baek Sunhik died? The other man says, yes, young master. According to his last words, there is a place called Earth Dimension that's been recently linked to us. And he apparently tried to floor invade. He hears a loud sound and says, it must be here. A really big monster appears there. The monster attacks young master. Young master says, has it already been 5 years since I took a break from tower climbing? He raises his hand. A sword comes flying toward his hand. He dodges the attack of monster and jumps. He stabs the monster in the head. The monster falls to the ground. Other man sees that and thinks, overpowering a mythical creature so easily. The young master's martial arts are terrifyingly strong. Young master says, Earth Dimension, sounds fun. He smiles and says, find out, no matter what, who it was that killed Baek Sunhik. Sungyun gets back to the lobby of 10th floor. He lays down on bed and says, my fatigue is all gone. As expected from the lobby. He thinks, I got access to another authority from an unexpected place. An authority window appears saying, Authority Wings of Steel's rank C+. Price 1500 SP. Description, an authority that lets you create steel swings that provide high flying speed with magic power. In order to maintain the wings, you need to constantly infuse them with mana. When you do not have enough mana, the wings automatically disappear. Sungyun thinks, an authority that lets me fly. Simply imagining it already makes me feel happy. Sungyun thinks, the only problem is that I can't buy it right away since I don't have enough SP. Alright. Now, then, shall I start synthesizing? He synthesizes a lot of skills and gets a lot of new skills. Sungyun says, at the end of a laborious hour, the skills I created was basically summarized like this. Defense counter shield rank B. Movement speed clandestine shadow step rank C+. Attack speed chaotic sword fighting play rank C+. Sungyun thinks, one of them is a B rank defense skill. He activates the skill counter shield. A really powerful looking shield appears in front of his hand. System says, you are entering the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials. Difficulty hard. The topic of the trial is cooperation. Time remaining 3 hours. Completion condition. Stop the resurrection of the darkness devouring monarch, within the remaining time. Failure conditions, team annihilation. After the expiration of time. Reward for completion, potion of skill proficiency rank B+. Penalty upon failure, death. 4 portal appears on the 10th floor. System says, team members are assigned according to their ranking. Team members' assignment has been finished. Ranking of the assigned team members has been listed. Ranking 1st Kim Sunghoon. Ranking 2nd Oh Chunsuk. Ranking 3rd Hunter. Ranking 6th Princess Sudi. A 30-minute grace period has been given. The grace period will now be subtracted from the time given to complete the trial. In this time, prepare to cooperate and defeat the boss monster. Sunghoon says, it's one those cooperation trials. How annoying. Chunsuk runs towards Sunghoon and says, Sunghoon Hung Nim, you're climbing the tower too. Sunghoon sees them and thinks, those two are ranked 1st and 2nd. It seems like they met in a previous trial. They both are talking to each other and laughing. Sudi screams and says, you're the guy I met on the 4th floor. Sunghoon is confused. Sunghoon says, have you two met on a previous floor? Looking at his reaction, it seems like it didn't go well. Sudi says, you're correct. We met on the 4th floor's cooperation trial, where Hunter, this bastard, decided to boost his growth by stacking up murder. Princess Sudi. It's in Kim Sungjoon's daily life to fool others. He created conflict by putting other against each other and used the timing to take the reward. That was the survival tactic he had developed, which worked in the Tower of Trials, a place with a different nature. Administrator Clown of Deceit is laughing with a wide smile due to his contractor's deception. Sudi gives an evil smile and laughs. Sudi looks towards Sunghoon and thinks, looking at his stiff expression, it seems like he's dumbfounded. Shall I add a little more to it? Sunghoon says, I think you're gravely mistaken. Sudi says, on top of that, he ruthlessly killed his own teammates. Sunghoon says, hey, man. What the hell are you talking about right now? Sunghoon brings his weapon and says, instead of 4 disunited people, I'd prefer 3 people with good teamwork. The Tower of Trails isn't an easy place. Who's telling the truth? The liar will be exterminated on the spot. Sunghoon thinks, if things go astray and I go up against these 3 at the same time, that will be the worst case scenario. Chunsuk says, everyone please relax for a moment. Princess Sudi said that he met Hunter on the 4th floor. Is that correct? Sudi says, yes, that's right. Chunsuk says, then you should know Hunter's real name. After all, the nickname system has become available at the lobby of the 5th floor. While you two met on the 4th floor. If Princess Sudi tells us Hunter's real name, this situation is cleared. Sudi is surprised to hear that. Sudi says, that's, Hunter's real name is. His real name is Lee Cheolman. Sudi thinks, yeah, after all, there's no way to prove your name here. Chunsuk says, Lee Cheolman, do you have something to say? Sunghoon says, it's not even funny. Sunghoon brings out his hunter's license, and says, this is my hunter's license. He thinks, I accidentally took this when I returned to Earth, but now I can use it in this situation. My name is Han Sunghoon. Sudi is really surprised to see that. Sunghoon says, then, it's decided who should be eliminated. Sudi thinks, things are really bad. Administrator Clown of Deceit is clicking his tongue at this contractor's clumsiness. Administrator Master of Dueling is laughing at your conversation. Administrator Seeker of Deception is having fun because of the result of your pettiness. Administrator Darkness Beholder is laying at your outcome. He thinks, I'm screwed. Sunghoon stops. Sunghoon says, I'm sorry, but I want to personally take care of this situation. I'm really pissed off right now. Sunghoon says, sure, I'll leave it to you. Sudi thinks, what? Only one of them is coming at me. Stupid bastard. Even though they hate me, there's hope if I kill him. Since it'll be burdensome for just the two of them to pass this 4-man trail by themselves. Sunghoon says, you've said some very interesting things. Shouldn't you take responsibility for your words? Sudi says, responsibility? I don't know what that is. I only care about survival. Besides, you're not the only one who has power. System says, a vine of the swamp spirit has wrapped around your feet. Sunghoon activates, skill mana resistance. System says, a vine of the swamp spirit has completely disappeared. Sunghoon jumps toward him. Sudi activates mana shield and says, how annoying you have mana resistance, huh? Sunghoon hits the shield with a really powerful attack. Ground under their feet starts to crumble. Sunghoon says, it'll be best if we put some distance between us. Chunsuk says, but I like how I can feel the fight here, Hung. Sunghoon picks him up and jumps away and says, it's good to be careful. So stop winning. Chunsuk says, a front toe view is so good though. Sudi screams and says, die, you bastard. Sudi throws some energy balls toward Sunghoon. Sunghoon dodges all the energy bales. And punches Sudi on the stomach. Sudi says, it seems like the hunter has become a prey. Some big energy balls appears behind Sunghoon. Sunghoon thinks, the spheres that he launched earlier. A really big energy ball hits Sunghoon. Sudi starts to laugh and says, you were showing off, but look at you now, you bastard. Sudi is really surprised to see his and says, what's that? Sunghoon uses skill counter shield. Sunghoon blocks the attack using the shield. A skill window appears saying, skill counter shield rank B. Proficiency 0%. Basic effect, once the skill name is memorized, you are able to summon a red shield made for magic power. Addition effect, 25% of the damage received by the shield will be absorbed and released in one go. Sunghoon turns the shield toward Sudi. Sunghoon says, why are so surprised, this is just the beginning. Sudi gets really angry and says, what's happening? He blocked this technique that easily. Sunghoon jumps toward Sudi. Sudi uses some kind of skill and blocks the path of Sunghoon using big rocks. Sunghoon cuts down the rocks in front of him. And move ahead. Chunsuk says, Sunghoon, hunter, no, do you know who Challenger Han Sunghoon is? Sunghoon says, no, I haven't seen a guy like him among the high-ranking hunters. Chunsuk says, if you don't know him then it's highly likely that he's an ordinary person, but is that possible? Sunghoon says, if he's not a high-ranking hunter like us, it'd be difficult. The thing that's more surprising is that Han Sunghoon isn't going all out right now. Sunghoon swings his sword. Sudi blocks the attack using his shield. Sunghoon says, I think he might be on a similar level to me. Chunsuk says, that high. Even though his final ranking is 2 places below. Sunghoon says, it's just an assumption. But if he didn't have any team luck in the cooperation trails until now, it's possible that he was undervalued compared to his skills. Sunghoon cuts one of Sudi's arms. Sudi screams with pain. Sunghoon thinks, I'm surprised. He didn't kill his opponent but oppressed him. With a lot of composure at that. Sudi is really scared and says, wait. If you kill me, you might not be able to survive this trail. This carefully. This trail is made up of the highest 4 rankers. In a situation like this in the Tower of Trials, will they give us a trial that's easy enough that you'll pass with having one less person? Sunghoon looks toward Sunghoon and Chunsuk. Sunghoon says, we won't interfere. Do as you please. Sudi bring out a sword is about to hit Sunghoon. Sunghoon is surprised to see that. Sunghoon cuts Sudi's head in half and says, this bastard, seriously. Sadi jumps backward and that was just a clone that Sunghoon killed. System says, unique trait deceit has been activated. All stats will momentarily be increased by 10. Sudi says, damn it. I wanted to hide my last trump card. Sudi uses a powerful attack and says, die, you bastard. Sunghoon blocks the attack using the red shield. Some purple chains appears above him. Sunghoon activates skill Wind's Grace has been activated. All speed has been increased by 40%. Currently skill stack progress, 4 out of 7. Sunghoon jumps really fast, and right in front of Sudi's face. Sunghoon says, instead of doing this trail as a 3. I know it's a lot more dangerous doing it with trash like you. System says, skill counter shield will release the accumulated damage in one go. A really powerful attack comes out of the shield and hits Sudi. An item window appears saying, Vampire counts old tailcoat ran a minus. Movement speed plus 8%. Magic regeneration plus 10%. One of a camper count of Chalihan's favorite special tailcoats. When being attacked, the user can temporarily create a bloody shield by consuming stamina or blood. Another item window appears saying, Heavenly Blood Demonic Sword rank B+. Reaction speed plus 7%. Attack speed plus 10%. A famous sword that is one of the treasures that's passed down in a blood demon cult of Muram. A blood chi sheathes the blade and mana that's flowing within the user's veins becomes harmonious. Sungyun says, I'll use these items well. Sungyun and Chunsuk come to him. Sungyun says, is everything done? Chunsuk says, Han Sungyun is amazing. Sungyun says, yes, thanks to you, I was able to finish it well. System says, 10 minutes until the start of the 10th floor trail. All challengers please stand by for the upcoming trial. Alright, let's go. Chunsuk says, a statue of cavalryman. It's huge. He won't come alive, right? Sungyun says, if it's the tower, it's possible. They reach in middle of a room. There are a lot of statues tied up with chains. Chunsuk says, there are 3 more statues that give off a bad feeling. And this? Probably the Dark Monarch. There is a statue without head. System says, the grace period has ended. The trial of the 10th floor will begin. The remaining time will decrease and the Dark Royal Order will appear. Stop him. Resurrection of the Dark Monarch. All the statues gets untied. And surround all of them. Sungyun says, I was feeling stiff but shall I warm up? Sungyun says, it's the head. We need to stop the guards from giving the head, that they're carrying on their backs, to the monarch. Sungyun says, good, it's simple. Then we'll each take one of them. All the status jumps toward them. Sungyun says, good luck. Sungyun jumps toward one of them and says, I'll finish in one strike with sword chi. Statue swings the sword toward Sungyun. Sungyun blocks the sword using his own sword. He moves back and he is really surprised. He thinks, sword chi. Sungyun thinks, it's not an easy opponent. I wonder if the other will be okay. Sungyun gets hit by a really powerful attack of a statue. One of the statues runs toward the boss statue. A big rock comes flying toward the statue and hits him. Sungyun was the one who had thrown the stone. He says, these bastards, they're all boss ranks. Don't be careless. Chunsuk says, I think you were the one being careless, Hyungnim. Chunsuk bring out a hat. And says, this hat doesn't suit me so I didn't really want to wear it. The fact that I'm wearing this ridiculous hat means you're gonna die. He gets ready to launch some really strong arrows. The arrows goes flying toward the statues with super speed. Statue dodges all the attacks. And gets near Chunsuk. He says, yes, when you fight a mage, it's standard procedure to fight him in close range. He bring out a sheath. And says, but that only applies if your opponent is a normal mage. Sungyun sees them and thinks, since I've only seen weak challengers up until now, seeing those guys make my blood boil in excitement. Statue attacks Sungyun. Sungyun jumps and thinks, I just need to do well. He spins around and kicks 2 rocks in front of him. Rocks hits the statue. Sungyun activates skill wins grace. System says, all movement speed has increased by 50%. Current skills stack progress. 5 out of 7. Sungyun run past the statue. You are currently stepping on a shadow. Skill clandestine shadow step C+, has been activated. Strength has temporarily increased by 3. Sungyun stand behind statue. System says, skill chaotic sword fighting play C+ has been activated. Attack speed for swords has been increased by 10%. Current skill stack progress 5 out of 10. Skill sword chi has been activated. Sungyun cuts head behind the back of the statue. Sungyun activates lightning bomb. A really strong lightning storm appears under the feet of a statue. Sungyun also breaks the head of the boss statue. Chunsuk is swing around his sheath attacking the statue. Statue blocks his attack, but Chunsuk managed to cut down the head of the boss statue. Statue starts to scream. Statue starts to run away. Chunsuk says, they're running away. Sungyun says, since we destroyed the monarch's head we won't need to worry about it resurrecting. They all runs toward the statues and says, let's wrap this up quickly. Sungyun hears a sound and says, "What, that sound?" All the statues make some kind of staircase by standing right behind each other. The statue they saw before at the entrance comes running and jumps using the other statues as a stepping stone. Sungyun sees that and thinks, the statue that was at the entrance. The statue goes running really fast toward the boss statue. Sungyun jumps really fast toward the statue. Sungyun gets really angry and thinks, no, it's already too late since we're running. The statue jumps from the horse with the head to boss statue in its hand. Sungyun throws the dagger with his full power. Dagger goes flying with super speed. And hits the head of the boss statue's head. The other statue gets really angry. And screams really loudly. Chunsuk says, nice. The statue picks up the crown and puts it on its own head. And picks up his weapon and cuts his own head. Sungyun and everyone else is really surprised to see that, including me. They all starts to run toward the statue and says, we need to stop it. They all jump to hit him. The statue puts his head on the spot of boss monster's head. A really big explosion happens. System says, condition have been met. The Dark Monarch is resurrecting. Sungyun thinks, oh no. System says, special objective, please defeat the Dark Monarch. Due to inviolability, all damage is negated. Challengers whose stats are higher than the Monarch will be able to inflict damage. Sungyun sees that and thinks an authority. I've never heard that a monster could use authorities. Boss statue summons a big sword. And attacks them. They all dodges the attack and Sungyun thinks, what's with this bullshit ability? If it's impossible to inflict damage, then we can't do anything. Another statue appears behind Sungyun. And attacks him. Sungyun barely dodges the attack. And thinks, damn it. Since we couldn't finish things, it's gotten so annoying. Sungyun thinks of something and thinks, wait. Maybe. All statues are standing in front of Sungyun. Chunsuk and Sungyun are running toward Sungyun. They says, Sungyun, are you okay? I think we should find a way to attack the monarch, but first, let's take care of those knights. Sungyun says, I have a request. Can both of you stop the monarch? Sungyun says, we can't do any damage to the monarch, so wouldn't it be more efficient to take care of the knights first? Sungyun says, I've thought of one possibility. A way to defeat the monarch. Sungyun says, okay, we'll trust you. It'll be hard for us to stall for a while, so don't take too long. They both goes toward monarch. Sungyun says, okay then. You guys need to play with me. Sungyun uses lightning bomb on monarch. System says, due to inviolability, all damage is negated. They say, as expected, it didn't work. System says, authority, a monarch dignity has been activated. When paying respects to the monarch, all movements that have not been permitted are restricted. They both sits on one of their knees. Monarch attacks them using the sword. Sungyun uses skill, mana resistance has been activated. Seal is temporarily lifted from your body. Sungyun stands up. Attack is about to hit Chunsuk. Sungyun gets in between Chunsuk and monarch's attack. Attack hits Sungyun. Sungyun cough out blood. Chunsuk grabs and says, Hyungnim, are you alright? Chunsuk gets really scared. Monarch gets ready to stab them. As the sword is about to hit them, Sungyun appears in front of them, uses his shield. Sungyun says, I'm sorry I was a little late. Chunsuk sees him and says, Han Sungyun. Sungyun says, absorb. After that we see all the statues are dead. System says, you have used all stored souls and your stats have been permanently increased. Strength has increased by 4. Agility has increased by 3. Stamina has increased by 3. Magic power has increased by 6. Durability has increased by 4. System says, skill counter shield will release the accumulated damage in one go. Authority sword chi master has been activated. Skill lightning sword chi has been activated. Sungyun grabs the other sword that he got from Sudi. And do a slash attack. Sungyun thinks, reach. Sungyun's attack hits the monarch. And leave a scare. Sungyun sees that and thinks nice, it worked. Monarch gets really angry. System says, authority, a monarch's dignity has been activated. Sungyun also sights on one of his knees. Sungyun uses forceful breakthrough rank D-. And skill mana resistance D-. Sungyun hardly able to stands up. Sungyun screams and System says, all restrictions have been completely lifted. System says, proficiency of skill forceful breakthrough has reached 100%. Skill forceful breakthrough has increased to rank circa. Proficiency of skill mana recovery rank D- has reached 100%. Skill mana recovery has increased to rank circa. Proficiency of skill mana resistance rank D- has reached 100%. Skill mana resistance has increased to rank circa. Monarch uses a really powerful sword attack. Sungyun blocks it with his shield. Sungyun thinks, this is a dangerous situation. But why am I laughing? Sungyun is really excited. He thinks is it the feeling of a sense of victory. Sungyun appears above Monarch's head. He thinks, is it the fundamental raging fire of desire for me to grow stronger? Chusuk says, Hyungnim, the challenger, Han Sungyun, is a monster. Sungyun says, I feel strange. To think that I'm looking at someone's back. But we should congratulate him for becoming the new top ranker. System says, recharge is complete. Skill counter shield has wrecked maximum damage absorption capacity. Sungyun thinks, if I decrease the scope of the counter shield's burst and concentrate the energy, its strength will increase exponentially. System says, skill counter shield will release the accumulated damage in one go. Sungyun concentrated it into a laser. He cuts one of the monarch's arms. Sungyun jumps toward the monarch. System says, skill wind's grace has been activated. All movements have increased by 70%. Current skill stack progress. 7 out of 7. Due to the skill's stack being maxed out, a cooldown of 1 day has been applied. Skill chaotic sword fighting play rank C+. Has been activated. All sword type attack speeds have increased by 10%. Current skill stack progress, 10 out of 10. Sungyun cuts the head of Monarch. System says, you have defeated the Dark Monarch. We see that iron-blooded Monarch is watching Sungyun. She says, to think a challenger with a crazy growth rate like this is my contractor. The standard challenger that climbs the tower. Prepares meticulously to avoid taking risks, and after using a large amount of time, they barely complete one floor. But Han Sungyun is a valuable person that's rare in other dimensions too. To the point where he's the embodiment of the desire to grow. The issue is that, as time passes, other admins will slowly become interested in Han Sungyun. I need to get closer to him before any other admin can. In order to attain my earnest wish. System says, you have defeated the Dark Monarch. Congratulations. You have completed the 10th floor of the Tower of Trails. Potion for increasing skill proficiency rank B+, has been sent to your inventory as a reward for completion. You have obtained 60,000 points as a reward for completion. You have obtained 1000 SP as a reward for completion. Challenger Han Sungyun has contributed the most to the special task. You have obtained 10,000 SP as a reward for the special task. You have obtained 1,500 SP as a reward for the special task. Sungyun thinks, the additional rewards are great because this trial was that difficult. Chunsuk says, how? Sungyun says, I had a skill I was able to use for this. I think I got lucky. Sungyun says, you've surprised me today in many ways. Let's talk about things in detail after I send you a friend request. We need to heal your wounds too. System says, Challenger Kim Sunghun has sent you a friend request. Challenger Oh Chunsuk has sent you a friend request. We'll see you again. System says, more than 1,000 people have completed the 10th trail. System expansion will now begin. Category Dimension Travel has been added to the store. You can now travel to other dimensions. Sungyun thinks, dimensional travel. I think it's implying that I can travel to places like Ares or Murim. But that would be suicide. Why do I have this stupid skill? System says, the administrator's observation domain has extended to Earth's dimension. You are able to converse with an administrator in the lobby. The administrator's interference domain has extended to Earth's dimension. You are able to go to the administrator's interference domain has extended to Earth's dimension. You are able to go to the administrator's territory and make additional contracts. However, only one additional contact can be made and it will be restricted after the contract has been created. You can terminate the additional contract at any time. Sungyun thinks, it's just an additional contract then. But if I'm able to terminate my contract at any time, then the administrator's at a loss, right? Well, I can't tell as of right now. So let's organize the things I got from the 10th floor. An item window appears saying, Potion for increasing skill proficiency B+. A potion that was specially created for those who are gifted with skills. Upon consumption, you can increase the proficiency of one of your skills by 20%. Sungyun drinks the potion. System says, you have consumed the potion for increasing skill proficiency rank B+. Please choose the skill you want to increase your proficiency in. Sungyun says, Wind's Grace. System says, confirmed. Proficiency of skill Wind's Grace A- has been increased by 20%. Skill Wind's Grace rank A- has reached 100% proficiency. Skill Wind's Grace has increased by 1 rank. Skill window appears saying, Skill Wind's Grace rank A. Proficiency 0%. Effect upon saying the skill's name, all speeds will increase by 10%, this skill can be stacked up to 7 times. When the maximum number of stacks are reached, 1% of your magic power will be consumed every minute. Sungyun sees that and thinks, the cooldown is gone. Next is, System says, you have absorbed the soul of the Dark Monarch and your stats have permanently increased. Strength has increased by 5. Agility has increased by 4. Stamina has increased by 4. Magic power has increased by 7. Durability has increased by 5. You will absorb one of the Dark Monarch's possessed skills. Skill Mana Management's rank A- has been obtained. Sungyun is really surprised to see that. A skill window appears saying, Skill Mana Management rank A-. Proficiency 0%. Effect with regards to mana management, you have stepped into the realm of natural talent, so most restrictions related to mana management will be lifted. However, skill proficiency increases only through independent realization, and the frequency of usage doesn't affect proficiency. Sungyun sees that and thinks, so now I'm a genius who's gifted with magic power. I don't really believe it, just by reading this. A lot of administrator invites him to their territory. Sungyun says, what? At the same time, System says, you have accepted the invitation and will be moved to the administrator's territory. You have entered the Iron Blood world. He walks toward her house. She is standing in front of him in only towel. She says, as expected I knew you would choose me. Thanks to you, I won the bet, I'll thank you with grand snacks. Sungyun says, I was wondering why they invited me at the same time. So it was for a bet. Sungyun says, aren't you cold? She says, nope. He says, can I ask you one thing? I obtained the skill management, coincidentally. Do you perhaps know anything about it? She says, good. Before we head into the cabin, I'll briefly tell you about it. With the new magic management skill, try bringing up all the magic power within your body as intensely as you can. Sungyun feels a lot of mana inside his body and he starts to scream. System says, your mana circuit has been greatly affected due to the activation of skill mana management. Skill mana circuit rank D has been forcibly increased by mana management rank A-. Sungyun suddenly feels something and says, it feels like my physical prowess has increased several fold. Shall I? He punches the ground wall with his full power. Her towels goes flying because of the wind. After that we see they are drinking tea and snacks. She says, I didn't know. You were a man who did such devious thing. Sungyun says, you're mistaken. She says, why are you flustered? Anyways, when you have the time, try activating your magic skills one by one with mana management. As you understanding about mana management increases, it will lead to each of your magic skills leveling up. Why did you call for me? You know that the system expended when you entered the 11th floor lobby, right? She says, yes. Because of that, I can come here without the tower. That's not the reason why interference domain was added. The real motive is so that the administrators can actively nurture their challenger. Sungyun says, what does that mean? She says, it means this. System says, Administrator Iron-Blooded Monarch has used interference domain and has gifted the challenger with an authority. A new authority has been engraved in your soul. Authority. Iron-Blooded Sword A- has been engraved into your soul. He says, can you give authorities out like this? She says, of course not. Sungyun says, then. She says, it means of Dune enough for the tower to do this. He thinks, the additional contract ability has been added so it might be better for her to select another challenger, so why? Sungyun says, why are you helping me so much? She says, it's because I can see your potential. Sungyun says, potential. She replies, administrators are rewarded by nurturing their challengers. But the motive isn't positive. They're just investing in their challenger because of their own earnest wish. He is surprised to hear that and says, "Earnest wish." A lot more. Administrator invites him to their territory. She says, "Let's end our talk here because of someone's impatience. I gave you the authority too. Then I'll see you again." System says, "You accepted the invitation and will be moved to the administrator's territory. You have entered the forest." Sungyun looks around and says, "This place is perfect for training. I was curious about the training method that the iron-blooded monarch told me about. Good timing." Sungyun starts to train with mana management. System says, "Proficiency of skill 3 laceration rank A- has increased by 8% due to mana management rank A-. His all skills starts rank up one after other because of mana management." He thinks, "Nice, I'm going to use sword chi too." He is surprised and thinks, "Why isn't sword chi activation through mana management? I was going to level up 3 lacerations through sword chi. It's the same no matter how many times I try." Sungyun says, "This is strange. Is it because sword chi is an authority?" Administrator White Crane Swordmaster in earnestly waiting for you visit. Sungyun says, "Let's leave ranking up sword chi for later." Yes, I'm going." Administrator White Crane Swordmaster said yes while blowing air into their cheeks. Sungyun thinks, looking at the nickname this administrator is using, I guess he's an old man like Baek Sunhik. The way he talks is annoying. Administrator says, "You're finally here." Administrator is a young girl. She says, "Nice to meet you. I'm Administrator White Crane Swordmaster. I've waited a really long time for a challenger like you to appear." Sungyun sees her and thinks, forget about an old man, it's a girl. She says, "Is that a problem?" Sungyun says, "It's fascinating that I'm seeing an administrator I've communicated with through messages." She laughs and says, "I understand, it'll be tiring to talk while standing, so come sit over here." He says, "Then, please excuse me." He sits and thinks, how refreshing. Sungyun says, "I understand why you sit here instead of a chair." She says, "It feels good, right? I watched over you from here. Ever since Baek Sunhik and you fought a battle to the death on the 9th floor." Sungyun says, "So you kept watching since you were able to watch my trails. Isn't it a waste to give your authority to a challenger you met once?" She says, "Absolutely not. You need to accurately understand your worth. Even though the great elder Baek Sunhik couldn't achieve lighting sword chi, he was once a strong swordsman in Murim. Even though he lost a portion of his strength when entering the tower, defeating a challenger like him a great achievement. You don't need to deny it since I, who was contracted with Baek Sunhik, am saying it." Sungyun is surprised to hear that. He thinks, wait, then. She might have a grudge against me. She says, "There's no need to being the mood down. You were just an easy challenger to earn points. I've made the contracts with many challengers but I've never invited a challenger here. Except for you. I know you've figured it out but I'll say it straight. Please make an additional contract with me." Sungyun says, "What benefits will I receive if I do? If you agree, I'll be able to make you the Administrator White Crane Swordmasters disciple." He says, "What exactly are the benefits if I become your disciple?" She says, "An administrator can appoint only one disciple in their life and being called an administrator's disciple in the tower means you have formed a special contract. Also challengers who are disciples are able to purchase all authorities of that administrator." He thinks, so a disciple contract was that important. What the hell, the iron-blooded monarch didn't even explain this to me even though I'm her disciple. Maybe she's a bit of an airhead. They said the additional contract can be terminated at any time. Why are you doing this one in a lifetime contract when it's so disadvantageous towards you? She says, "Like that woman, I chose you in order to fulfill my earnest wish. It's because I need the sharpest sword. The best sword that won't bend or become blunt. You have the potential to become the sharpest sword." Sungyun thinks, earnest wish. That's the word that the iron-blooded monarch said too. Maybe it's referring to a simple desire. Sungyun says, "What's an earnest wish?" She says, "It's an administrator's earnest wish comes from their past regrets, which stem from their memories. At the same time, earnest wish is an authority granted by the tower to the administrators. Like the Tower of Trials, it's a trail that can only be given to the challengers who are contracted with admins. When it comes true, the challenger will obtain a reward." She says, "If my earnest wish comes true, You'll be able to change the past. Sungyun is really surprised to hear that and says, I can change the past. Is something as impossible as that possible? You'll know since you've been climbing the tower. If my words are true or not. He thinks, that's right. If it's the tower. Sungyun says, can I perhaps ask you one thing? She says, yes of course. Sungyun says, how much do I have to climb in order to make your earnest wish come true? She says, about that. It would have to be the lobby at the highest floor of the Tower of Trials. System says, the contract has been achieved. She starts to jump and says, you made a great decision. You won't regret it. He thinks in the end, I accepted her contract. The highest floor. I knew the place that I needed to reach in order to accomplish an admin's earnest wish. Was the very top of the tower. System says, you have been acknowledged as administrator, White Crane Swordmaster's true disciple. Due to the disciple benefit, the effectiveness of authority and skills of the Murim dimension will increase by 10%. Due to the disciple benefit, mana has increased by 3. Current challenger, Han Sungyun, has been acknowledged as a disciple of 2 administrators. Due to the benefit of being a double disciple, agility has increased by 3. He thinks, I can't let go of this chance where I can get stronger instantly. On top of that I got a special present too. Sungyun says, but, perhaps, did you not hear anything else from that girl? About the person who is looking for you. He says, no, not really. She says, I wonder what that girl, Ironblood, is thinking. It seems like she trusts you completely. Of course, I trust you too, but I must tell you this. The thing I'm about to say will use a question voucher, is that alright? Sungyun says, of course, since I don't have a use for them and have just been saving them up. System says, Challenger Han Sungyun has used all of his question vouchers. He is surprised and thinks, it used all of my question vouchers. Just how important is it? In the Murim dimension, there is a great power called the Murim Alliance. And Baek Sunhik, the person you killed on the 9th floor, held a high position as a High Elder of the Murim Alliance. Due to that, there is someone who's looking for you in the Murim dimension. Sungyun says, don't tell me that someone from the Murim Alliance is looking for me and wants to kill me. She says, no. Instead, the Murim Alliance is currently as disarray because of the battle for the High Elder's vacant position. Sungyun says, then who is it that wants me dead? The sword dragon from the Namgong family. We see at the Tokyo, Shinjuku. She says, the Blue Heaven Sword Dragon, Namgong Hyuk. He is someone who has made a name for himself among the martial arts fanatics that have lived in the Murim dimension for centuries. And is called a genius. Although the immediate reason that he's looking for you is for revenge. The real reason is because he's simply curious. I don't know when it'll be. But if you end up facing Namgong Hyuk, you need to prepare to put your life on the line. Sungyun gets back to the lobby of 11th floor. He thinks, Namgong Hyuk. So, to simply summarize the information. The Murim's psychotic murderer is looking for me. They're the ones that invaded my floor first. How confusing. Authority wings of steel rank C+ have been purchased. 1500 SP has been deducted. Return stone rank F+ has been purchased. I found out a new truth, but nothing's really changed. Before I run into that Namgong Hyuk, I need to level up like crazy. System says, you have used a return stone and will return to Earth. As soon as he returned to Earth he checks his phone. There are 132 missed calls of Lee Haeyeon. And 87 unread messages of Lee Haeyeon. She says please come to the Hunter Association as soon as you see this. Sungyun thinks, Lee Haeyeon, did something happen? She activates wings of steel rank C+. He goes flying really fast toward the Hunter Association. Hunters are talking to each other saying, I'm glad it's not a compulsory mobilization. Other hunter says, I know right. Seeing the footage, it looked really violent. What going to happen to Japan? He land right in front of the Hunter Association. Sungyun says, excuse me and starts to running in the association building. Everyone is surprised to see him and say, that guy did he just fly? What? Director of the test and Lee Haeyeon are waiting for him. Director says, it's good to see you again, Han Sungyun. I'm sorry for troubling you inside the tower. Haeyeon says, welcome Sungyun. He says, long time no see. So what's wrong? Why did you call me here so urgently? She says, something big happened in Japan just now, if you'd heard about the incident. I was worried that you would fly to Japan alone, so I called you here urgently. Director says, we need to converse more but, the situation is bad so we'll get straight to the point. This is the body cam footage of a Japanese hunter that's been shared to use by Japan. The location is Shinjuku, Tokyo. The Japan's Hunter Association, who had detected a strong wavelength from a gate, sent a team composed of 7 S-rank hunters to the Sasen. The human that came out of the gate, although shocking, murdered 6 of the A-rank hunters in a few seconds. Recently, it has been speculated that he's an otherworldly challenger who has invaded Earth dimension. Sungyun thinks, otherworldly challenger. No way. All the hunters were leaving just then. Shouldn't you call all of them and go support Japan? Director says, about that in an unparalleled situation, almost all countries try to protect their hunters. So they're blocking hunter resources being dispatched to Japan. That's the same for our country. So they aren't sending hunters to support Japan. And from that, this is the body cam of the only survivor of the 7. The invader says, the Blue Heaven Sword Dragon Namagong Hyuk has come to avenge Baek Sunghak. Tell them that. Sungyun thinks, Namgong Hyuk. I didn't expect to meet him this quickly. Haeyeon grabs Sungyun's arm and says, why do you have such an serious expression? It's not compulsory to go. It's been a while since we've seen each other, so shall we go eat something first? Sungyun says, She says, you won't go, right? Sungyun says, as per the request from Japan, I will go to Shinjuku in Tokyo. She says, why? Why do you keep doing such reckless things? You should think about other people's feelings even if it's just a little. Sungyun says, thank you for worrying. But, this is something I need to resolve. After that we see a flashback where Hyuk thinks, why can't everyone understand the sound of the sword? He beats up someone. A girl with him says, young master, isn't this too much for a light spar? The old man comes there and says, sword chi at the age of 13. You've achieved more than I did when I was young. Hyuk says, I greet the swordmaster. But Hyuk, martial arts are not to harm humans, but are a path for transcendence. You can't harm anyone without a reason. System says, the Tower of Trails is selecting a challenger from the Murim dimension. They all are celebrating that, the young master has climbed to the 20th floor of the tower. Hyuk thinks, I'm still no satisfied. My desire isn't being satisfied just from climbing the tower. I can't believe that a 17-year-old has achieved something so grand. One. Hyuk says, I'm sorry, grandfather. As expected, I have the most fun when destroying humans. I no longer feel satisfied by killing pathetic bastards. Going around Murim and killing people isn't allowed either. But this guy called Han Sungyun might make this fun for me. Sungyun reaches Japan. A girl says, to him this way. They reach a building and she says, Challenger Han Sungyun, this way please. There are other people waiting inside. Chunsuk and Sunghoon are also there. Chunsuk says, after seeing you on the 10th floor, we meet each other again. Sunghoon says, you arrived later than I thought. Sungyun says, I heard from the association that you were here, but you really did come. Although, is this everyone who's gathered in response to Japan's support request? Sunghoon says, I heard that an additional challenger from America will soon arrive. Sungyun says, I see. He thinks, even if you say that us 3 are all equivalent to S-rank hunters. The current otherworldly challenger that appeared in Shinjuku, is an unknown monster that might defeat all 3 of us. It'd be great if the challenger from America is strong. The hunter from America arrives. It's Catherine. She says, comes to the room and says, Han Sungyun. The girl says, do you know each other? Sungyun says, yes, to an extent. We met in the tower for a moment. She says, I didn't want to meet you like this. Sungyun says, was there another way you wanted to meet? She says, I wanted to meet you in a more normal way. Sungyun says, we didn't even meet in a normal way in the first place, so how would we meet normally? She says, well, that's true, but can't you say it in a softer way? Sunghoon says, is this a couple's fight? Sungyun says, that's not it. Never. She gets angry and thinks, this guy could have just said no, but why never? The girl says, finally all the challengers are gathered. She says, my introduction has been late. I'm the president of the Hunter Association in Japan, Ari Chika. Sangyun thinks, she's the president of the Hunter Association. She came to the airport, so I thought she was just an ordinary association employee. I guess that means Japan is that desperate. President says, it is expected that there will be no more support for Japan. The situation is a lot more severe than I thought, so I think they are regulating hunter support. Chunsuk says, even if they're regulating their hunter, to think that there are only 4 applicants out of everyone in the entire world. Catherine says, the situation is a lot worse than I thought. President says, currently, no country is actively wanting to help Japan. To all of you who came here when everyone else turned their backs on us, I sincerely thank you. Sungyun says, please raise your head, President. Now's not the time to be bowing. Catherine sees that and thinks, Han Sungyun, this person. He's cold on the outside, but Sungyun says, instead of bowing, you should increase our reward. Right now, Catherine is confused. Sungyun says, I'm requesting that you increase the promised reward 2-fold. Then I will actively give you my support to resolve this issue. Catherine thinks, I knew he was cold-hearted. Sungyun thinks, growth, I didn't come here because I was enticed by being a good Samaritan or a hero. I came because of the reward and growth I'll get when I kill Namgong Huk. President says, alright. I was very emotional in this critical situation. The entity that has appeared within Shinjuku is an abnormal monster. Since all of you are putting your lives on the line, I'll promise to increase the reward 2-fold. And she points toward Catherine and says, the situation isn't all despair, we have a shot at victory. The ability that Catherine Bennett possesses can flip the result of this fight. One of the authorities I possess is called the fire suppression. If an opponent who is stronger than me touches the fire that triggers this authority, all of their stats will decrease by 10 and a random portion of their skills will become sealed. Catherine says, using this authority, we can achieve victory. Of course, we'll win if he touches it. Sungyun says, in other words, we need to create a situation where Miss Catherine can activate her fire suppression. After that we see a helicopter is flying above the Shinjuku. News reporter says, breaking news. We have news that China's S-rank hunter Peng Jamin, who went to Shinjuku as support, has just met the otherworldly challenger. There has yet to be any movement, it seems like they're conversing. Yes, it's a possible situation. It is known that challengers of the tower can converse despite being from different dimensions and nations. Hyuk says, are you Han Sungyun? Peng Jamin says, Muram Gai, I'm China's Peng Jamin. You'll soon regret looking down on the Earth dimension. Hyuk says, I don't know why insects are coming instead of the guy the first told to come. Peng uses dash ability and punches Hyuk in the face. Hyuk says, a martial artist, huh? How fun. Peng is surprised to see him unharmed. A big explosion happens. Sungyun and the other are in helicopter and about to reach Shinjuku. Chunsuk says, why is the Chinese hunter acting on his own? Sungyun says, this is bad. Sungyun says, Miss Catherine, can you land properly even if we fall midair? Catherine says, pardon, what do you mean? Sungyun says, I just had a good idea. She says, a leap forward you say, I do have a skill that negates all damage when you fall. Sungyun says, then that's enough. If this works, we'll be able to inflict a lot of damage to him in one go. In that moment, please activates your authority. He grabs hand and says, excuse me for my rudeness. She says, wait, what are you going to do? Sungyun jumps from the helicopter and activates authority wings of steel. Sungyun says, fly. Chunsuk says, seriously doing whatever he wants, he hasn't changed. Sungyun says, we can't just watch. The both jump from the helicopter too. Catherine says, you're seriously, not in your right mind. In this situation, who goes and flies without any explanation? Sungyun says, it's good that the Chinese hunter is taking up Namgong Hyuk's attention. Catherine thinks, he isn't even listening to me. Sungyun says, if you see an opening please use your authority. Sungyun leaves her and says, then, I'll be going first. Hyuk and Peng are fighting with each other. The gloves that Peng was wearing breaks. Hyuk says, for a guy who can't even put martial chi into his fist, what martial art is that? Hyuk punches him chi punches. Sungyun hits Hyuk wooing his shield. Hyuk goes flying. Hyuk is confused. Sungyun throw a big rock away, and says, falling from the sky something I won't ever do again. Hyuk says, who are you? Sungyun Says, you were looking for me that much. But now that I'm here, you don't even know who I am. Sungyun activates skill Ashen Blood rank B-, has been activated. All types of pain inflicted on the user will be decreased by 40%. If you manage to barely survive, skill Ashen Blood's proficiency will increase by 20%. Hyuk says, I see, you're. Sungyun says, yeah, I'm Han Sungyun. Sungyun activates Authority Sword Chi Master. Hyuk says, I was looking forward to who you were. But to think you were a weak bastard who uses a fake sword chi. He says, I'm pissed off. Sungyun says, so what? He thinks I need to take initiative and attack now since he doesn't have a weapon. Hyuk summons his sword. Sungyun and Hyuk starts fight. Every round starts to fly away because of the shockwaves. Sungyun thinks, it would have been really dangerous if I took that head on. His shield breaks from one side. Sungyun thinks, I thought he took a lot of damage during the drop attack, shit. And my counter shield got destroyed in one hit too. At this rate, it'll be difficult to use counter shield's ability. Is that real sword chi? Hyuk says, recovery. To think you're relying on the witchcraft form the tower. Skill Lightning Sword Chi has been activated. A slash attack goes toward Hyuk. Hyuk uses a slash attack as well, which destroys Sungyun's slash attack. Chunsuk and Sunghun also appears behind Hyuk, ready to attack. Hyuk dodges their attack with ease. Catherine appears behind him and uses fire suppression. She is surprised and thinks, my authority didn't work. Chunsuk shouts and says, hey above you. Hyuk says, you insect bastards are ruining my fun. The instincts of a hunter who'd experienced many battles of life and death told them this. That they could not block this attack. Hyuk uses a really powerful attack and says, die you insects. They all starts to run and says, dodge. We see a flashback where the administrator says, think of this teaching as a small gift. This is a simple mana injection. And this, on the other hand, isn't a simple mana injection as it maintains a feeling of connection. How is it? Can you feel the difference? Sungyun says, I felt the first one as a simple mana injection. And the second one felt like, you, White Crane Swordmaster, were inside of me. She says, good, now you just have to apply that to your sword. However, use it after you leave this place. Since you can't be put at a disadvantage due to administrator's interference. Hyuk is really surprised to see something. System says, skills and authorities are not manifested through sword chi and are instead used through one's own realization. You have used the Earth Dimension's first sword chi. The Tower of Trials sends its praise to challenger Han Sungyun. Achievement unification with the sword has been accomplished. Due to the increased mana consumption of Authority Sword Chi Master, the penalty has been removed. Sungyun thinks, this is the completed sword chi. Sungyun says, is everyone okay? They say yes, thanks to you. Catherine thinks, in that moment, he used an attack of the same level to negate it. These two are monsters. Hyuk starts to laugh and says, yes, that's how you're supposed to react. I was about to be disappointed. The more effort you put into a sand castle, the more fun it is when you destroy it. Hyuk jumps towards Sungyun with super speed. Sungyun jumps backwards. Sungyun blocks his attack and thinks, all the otherworldly challengers up until now were annoying, but this guy really is a psychopath. Sungyun says to them and says, I'm sorry but can you all stand by in a safe place? If there's a situation where I need to protect you like before, I won't be able to focus. Catherine says, but. Sunghun says, it's upsetting, but it's true. Sunghun thinks, to think that I can't be of help again after the previous trail, damn it. Sunghun says, but. When an opportunity arises, we will carry out the flame plan. The starts to run and say, be careful. Sungyun and Hyuk starts to fight. Building and cars around them starts to crumble because of the shockwaves. They fighting so fast that they looks like lightning strike. There are huge explosions happening. Chunsuk and Catherine are barely able to stand and Chunsuk says, I understand why he had to stand by. Catherine says, but he's fighting that monster on equal footing. Sunghun says, no, I feel like he's slightly lagging behind. At this rate, he's going to die. Sungyun thinks, I thought I would be able to fight against him to a certain extent if my sword chi leveled up. Administrator says, my assumption of Namgong Hyuk's swordsmanship skills are a rank. Sungyun says, but my swordsmanship skill is just AC rank. She says, forget about skills, he's just really freaking strong. Sungyun falls on one of his knees. Hyuk says, what, is that it? Sungyun thinks, shit, I used too much stamina to recover. If I use any more stamina, it'll affect my combat. Catherine throws a potion toward Sungyun and says, Sungyun, here. Sungyun grabs the potion and says, nice. As Sungyun is about to drink the potion, Hyuk kicks him into stomach. Hyuk grabs the potion and says, I'll drink this well. Catherine says, no. Chunsuk says, that annoying bastard. I should have poisoned it. Hyuk says, humans always have some hope. The same goes for you, Han Sungyun. System says, a small amount of stamina has been restored. Hyuk says, I might be able to win this fight too. If I do my best. At the end of the battle, I'll be able to win. I might be able to survive. But, ripping those thoughts to shreds. The moment your expression turns from benign optimism to despair, that expression is